Hello. Welcome back to my office for the day, I suppose. You'll see why I picked a park for this video in just a moment when I reveal the topic, but I do want to preface this video by saying I'm in a public park, so there's going to be like kids screaming and bicyclists and cars parking. There's going to be a little bit of noise, so please forgive the noise in this video. I hope it's worth it anyway. But I wanted to come here and talk to you about a really common cause of constipation, and this is one that has affected me personally throughout the years, and that is stress. Now, I know that sounds very like, oh, please don't turn off the video yet. I know that that immediately comes off as, it's all in your head, you damn crazy person, just take some Prozac. I promise you that's not at all the message in this video, but I just want to share a couple of my personal experiences to paint a picture of how stress can cause constipation and what that might look like for you, because I had two experiences that were very surprising that confirmed this hypothesis for me, but it was also something that made me realize that it can be really hard to figure out if this is affecting you, because I had two completely opposite reactions. So without further ado, let's get into my first story. Most of you know that I had IBS, which I hypothesized might have been SIBO years ago, and when I had my IBS bout, I had severe bloating and diarrhea. Those were my symptoms, and a lot of food intolerances. Since then, and really since the birth of my daughter, I would say my tendency has been to be pretty regular, but if anything, I gravitate more strongly to constipation now, particularly if I'm stressed. And I've known this about myself for years, and I'm working on my stress reduction. That's why I have all the paintings in my office. I've gotten into painting. I'm getting back into acupuncture. I'm trying to exercise more. I'm trying to do what I preach or practice what I preach, and I'm trying to work on my own stress. But that's a story for another day. So I have known for a while that movement and stress play a pretty big role for me and my now kind of chronic ongoing dance with mild to moderate constipation. So this is not new news to me necessarily, but when I was gearing up for a lecture in the fall, I was invited to do a 4-hour SIBO lecture for healthcare professionals, and I was very excited and very honored to do this class, and I prepared for it well, and it was absolutely a kick-ass lecture. But like public speaking typically is, it was a bit stressful. Even though I enjoy public speaking, I think I'm good at it, I had a really great lecture prepared, I knew it was going to be a hit. It's still, you know, the adrenaline rush of getting up on a stage and speaking for people and teaching, and it was a lot. And I did notice in the week or two leading up to that lecture, I was a bit more backed up than usual. And the couple of days leading up to the lecture, I even noticed I had to rely on some herbal laxatives to keep me moving. And I kind of chuckled because here I am, the gut health expert who's dealing with some constipation. But at least I knew the cause. I knew it was because I had this lecture coming up and I was just stressed and there wasn't much I could do about it. So I just kind of band-aided my way through it to get to the big day. So I get to the big day. Sure enough, there's a bit of an adrenaline rush and cortisol, a lot of stress chemistry flying. But I get through the lecture. It was a smash hit. Wonderful. Much to my surprise, I thought, oh, now that the stress is over, within a day or two or three, I'm going to go right back to normal. My body's going to know that it's safe and sound again. No, not even close to what happened. What actually happened was it took me 2 or 3 weeks to go back to my normal baseline and have my normal bowel movements again. 2 or 3 weeks. Not at all what I anticipated. That is 7 to 10 times longer than I thought it would take. I thought it was like, oh, a day or two and I'll be fine. And honestly, I don't know if I would have put 2 and 2 together. I don't know if I would have realized that pattern occurred because I had had little bouts with mild constipation on and off for the years. But I happened to be tracking my bowel movements in a smartphone app. I think it's called Stool Tracker. Stool Tracker. I'll link it in the notes somewhere if you want to check it out. There's a free version of the app. It's great. But I happened to be tracking the frequency and Bristol stool scale rating of my bowel movements for a while because I was gearing up to do my video about the Datis Karazian veggie mashup. And I wanted to track bowel movements before and after doing that. So I had already been tracking for a little while. And I continued to track bowel movements after that lecture. And that's where I noticed that there was such a stark contrast. Before the stress, I was doing so good. Type 4, type 4, type 4, type 4, type 4, maybe like a little blip into type 3 here or there. But it was pretty uniform. Type 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, 2, 2, 1. And it was really profound. I'm kicking myself now that I didn't save a screenshot of that to show you now. But like I said, it took me 2 or 3 weeks to fully recover from that one kind of moderate stress thing. Now, fast forward a little bit, right around the new year, my mom, who I'm very close with, had pretty major foot and ankle surgery. Now, it was planned, it was anticipated, but I was stressed. I was worried about her. I didn't know, how is pain management going to go after such a major surgery? She's going to be on opioids. Is she going to get hooked on them? Is she going to have a hard time getting off of the opioids? She's had a lot of foot and ankle problems over the years. I didn't know if this would help her walk or if it would cripple her for life and make it so she couldn't walk. There was just a lot going through my head. And sure enough, we get to the day of the surgery. And similarly, I think the day or two leading up to this, I needed a little bit of some herbal laxatives to keep me going. But again, I was like, I know what's happening. It's just stress, whatever. I'm just going to Band-Aid it and get through it. So we get to the day of the procedure. And I'm in the waiting room with my dad, and we're waiting to get word that she's okay and she's out of surgery. And it starts occurring to me, I'm like, I took my super aloe last night, and usually that stuff works really well, like clockwork. The next morning I'm having a big old fluffy poop, and it wasn't working. And it was getting to be like 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, and I still hadn't pooped. I was like, man, either the super aloe is losing its effectiveness for me or something else, or like my body is just so stressed that even the super aloe is not touching this. Sure enough, the hours pass. And then I think it was around 1 o'clock, I want to say, we get word that my mom was out of the OR, safe and sound, the surgery went well, and the lady who worked there ushered us into a little side room and said, please wait in here, and the surgeon's going to come talk to you and tell you about the surgery in a couple minutes. We're like, cool. We get in that little room, I shit you not, within a minute, I had to poop. It was within maybe 2 to 3 minutes of her verbally telling us that my mom was okay and she was out of surgery safe and sound. We get in that room, and then I laughed because I was like, oh my God, now I finally have to go and I have to hold it because I don't want to miss the conversation with the surgeon. So I had to hold it for a little while. Luckily, he came right in and I was able to run out. But I was joking with my dad. I was like, I've been waiting to poop all morning. And now my body decides that now is the appropriate time. But I think that what happened is that I was so stressed and I was holding on to it. Literally, it was like I was holding my breath, but it was poop instead of my breath, right? So I was just holding on to that tension. And the minute I found out that my mom was safe and sound and she got out of the surgery okay, it was like my body went, oh, thank God, we can relax now. And then I was ready to have poop. So what I find fascinating about these two stories is that they are the total opposite end of the spectrum, right? So on the one hand, the second story is more of what I expected, to be honest. I expected, leading up to the stressor and during the stressor, you can deal with constipation. And then once the stressor passes, then your body feels safe, right? And you can let go. Literally, you can let go and you can poop again. That's what I expected. And again, it was within a minute or two. But the first story really surprised me. I thought for sure that it would just be leading up to the lecture, and then I actually figured the minute I was done with the lecture, I'd be running to the bathroom potentially. Not at all what happened. It took 2 or 3 weeks for me to normalize. So my point in sharing this is just to share it because maybe one or both of these stories will strike a chord with you and make you realize that this is a big factor for you. But also I just wanted to paint this picture that it's not super simple. I think that we humans are conditioned to see things happen and then see the effect really quickly, right? Like we take berberine and then we expect to feel a difference the next day. You take an antibiotic and you feel different the next day. You take Tylenol and you feel different within an hour. You take whatever medication and you feel different right away. And I think a lot of us expect that with herbs and nutrition too. Like, I've been gluten-free for a whole week and I don't feel any different. I mean, that might not be a reasonable expectation. But similarly, here I was, and I do this for a living, keep in mind, so I know about the body, I know how this stuff works, but even I thought that it would be a much more linear and quick turnaround between stress and no stress, not pooping versus pooping. And my body beautifully showed me that that is not always the case. Now keep in mind too, preparing for that lecture, I was preparing and I was researching and I was writing the curriculum for that for a couple of weeks, maybe 2 months, I would say, but really the crunch time was about the month prior. So that was 2 months of high stress. What happens if you have a lot of chronic stress in your life? What if you have a job that you absolutely hate? What if you live with somebody who's just toxic and sucking the life out of you? What if you are in a relationship that you're not happy in, or is abusive, or you do not enjoy anymore? What if there are just things that are stressing you out every day for potentially months or years? It really begins to make you wonder, A, how effective are our herbal and our nutrition strategies going to be if you have something like stress bubbling in the background? But B, I do think that sometimes what happens is that people try to work on the stress, and they do that for like a week or two or a month or two. And then if they don't feel better, they're like, it's not stress. This can't be it for me. Well, I don't know. Again, if it took me 2 or 3 weeks to normalize from 2 months of stress affecting my bowels, is it really reasonable to expect somebody to turn around immediately if they have had chronic stress for a year or more? I don't know. These things take time. And that is both, I hope it's helpful to know that, but I understand that's also deeply frustrating. And all of you want to feel better yesterday. So I guess my point in this video is A, to just share these two seemingly opposing stories that happen to the same human being, and just to tell you that stress is a really common cause of constipation. It's not the only cause. There is methane, there is a lack of dietary fiber, there's hydration, there's movement, there's sleep issues. Like, there's so much that goes into constipation, but this is a really, really common one. I think it's a variable for most people. To what degree it's a variable is up for grabs for you as an individual, but I think that this is at play for most people. And I just hope that my experiences point you in the right direction, or teach you something about your body, or give you some insight that ultimately helps you recover and get to the other side of whatever you're trying to heal. So until next time, I wish you the biggest, fluffiest poops. I'll see you soon. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, click the like button, and leave a comment down below with the videos that you would like to see me do next. Doing all of those really helps support the channel and support my efforts in making as many videos as possible for you guys. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.